Joining me now for more on this is Centre of the American Experiment President John Hinderaker. John, welcome. It would seem that finally there are repercussions for this DEI business, and you'd have to say that's a good thing. One wonders whether this will send shockwaves through the media and other parts of the commercial world, saying there is repercussions, or there are, I should say, repercussions for this kind of thing.
Yes, well, the entertainment industry is right up there with academia as the two wokest industries in the United States. And what is going on here is that the U.S. Supreme Court in the Harvard and North Carolina education cases clearly held that race discrimination is illegal. And what people like CBS have believed is that it's bad to discriminate against some races, but it's okay to discriminate against others. And the Supreme Court said, no, it's illegal. And so we're seeing a lot of this kind of thing. And as part of the settlement, CBS and Paramount have agreed to step back from some of the DEI policies that they have been engaging in.
Well, I won't be crying about that, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people might be lining up for a few more cases like this. Get the popcorn ready. Now, during the week, Trump seemed to open the door to the idea of giving out a baby bonus. The White House has been looking into this idea of giving mothers $5,000 cash in hand for having a baby. And we did it here in Australia under John Howard as Prime Minister and Peter Costello as Treasurer. The famous cry was one for mum, one for dad, one for the country. So Trump says maybe it's worth doing in the US. I mean, the fertility rate is through the floor like it is across the Western world, which means you have to rely on immigrants to grow the population. So more American babies is a good thing, except if you ask the brainiac women on The View, they say it's more white babies Trump wants.
When I look at something like this, these proposals, I want to know why, and I want to know who's making them. And so when I looked into that, they're saying that the U.S. birth rate is declining. However, in 2024, there was a 1% increase in U.S. births. But that increase was with Hispanic mothers and Asian mothers. So they don't seem to be concerned about that increase. They seem to be more concerned about a decrease in other populations.
Say it.
No, I think I've said enough.
It's not based on that.
And so, well, it's just based on a study. And so the other thing
but
I will.
Have they said that anywhere? I mean, I feel like
yeah,
it should be fair.
It's just
fair to who?
It's just a.
Have they said that this is to target only white families?
Oh, I didn't say that.
You have to read between the lines.
I just gave the stats.
They're not going to say it.
There you go, John. Americans having children is white supremacy.
Well, first of all, The View is just awful. They should show a warning at the beginning of every show saying this program may be hazardous to your IQ. I mean, it is just unbelievably dumb. You know, poor Donald Trump, somebody shouted a question to him about the government maybe doing something to encourage people to have more children. And Trump said, sounds like a good idea to me. That's it. You know, there's nothing in there about race, you know, and so the people on The View, like liberals everywhere across America, they want to make everything about race, and it doesn't make any sense at all.
It's just ridiculous, and it might explain why some people are turning off the left-wing media in the US. And it would seem at least some people on the left in America are waking up to why people are turning off the CNNs and the MSNBCs of the world. Rainn Wilson, who I'm sure many at home would know as Dwight Schrute in The Office, brilliant series, he interviewed MSNBC host Stephanie Ruhle this week, and he didn't miss.
40% of Americans don't trust mainstream media. Why is that? How did we get here?
Listen, we are seeing a huge loss in trust of all of our institutions, and sort of losing that trust is not by accident, it's by design, right? And you had a bit of a perfect storm, right? President Trump won, and tons of people were shocked or angry or frustrated, and they're tuning out. And at the same time, you have the Elon Musk media machine, because they want you to leave traditional media and they want you to go to X, which is a bastion of misinformation.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about left-leaning news media organizations who are kind of like, la, 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 everything's fine. Look, the environment's look, the economy's great, la, la, la.
And he's right. I mean, they need to have a reckoning, a real awakening about the way they've conducted things if they want to get any viewers back.
Well, who knew that Dwight Schrute could be so sensible? But what he says is, of course, is true. The press has lost the confidence of the vast majority of Americans simply because they have lied to us time after time, year after year. You can talk about the Russia collusion hoax, COVID, the list just goes on and on. And that's why they've lost the trust of the American people. And then beyond that, the bias in the so-called mainstream media is so palpable, so obvious that there's not even any point in denying it anymore. And the good news is that the Americans have got plenty of places they can go for news.
Indeed. Speaking of television news, the executive producer of 60 Minutes in the US, Bill Owens, he's resigned saying that he doesn't have control over the show anymore. Now, we know Trump is suing them over an interview last year with Kamala Harris that they aired, an edited version, to make her sound less word salady. Take a look.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
It seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
You know, caught red-handed. But, John, what's the real story behind his resignation?
Well, one of the things going on, of course, is that Trump is suing CBS for $20 billion or something for election interference. I don't think he's got a cause of action, although what they did there was obviously shameful. There's no doubt about it. Another factor some people talk about is that Sherry Redstone, who owns the controlling interest in CBS's parent company, wants to do a merger, and she's going to need the approval of the Department of Justice for that merger. And so some people think that she wants to put this case behind her for that reason. But I think that's maybe unfair. I think there's no reason to assume that she's not just legitimately appalled at what 60 Minutes has done here, and she's embarrassed by this company that she controls. And, you know, the fact is that 60 Minutes has been putting out fake news for a long, long time. 20 years ago, back in 2004, my website played a leading role in exposing 60 Minutes, the very same program, for putting out fake documents to try to impugn President George Bush's military service. And they've been at this for a long, long time. I think this is overdue.
Indeed. Now, last week I showed you, the people at home, not you, John, but Trump facing off with CNN reporter Caitlin Collins over the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the El Salvadorian who is being deported for being a gang member, but he's somehow become a lightning rod for the left's opposition to deportations because they think he didn't face due process. Well, MSNBC was taking a presser from the Oval Office this week, and they curiously cut away as soon as Trump started talking about this case.
Two separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13, which is a gang that may be even worse.
We've been watching President Donald Trump there swearing in the new administrator of the CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
How convenient, John.
Well, this is one of many instances where the press really doesn't want the American people to know the facts. They keep referring to this guy Garcia as a Maryland man. That's their phrase. He's a Maryland man. Well, he's not a Maryland man. He's an El Salvadoran. He is an illegal immigrant. He is a human trafficker. He is a member of MS-13, this incredibly violent Central American gang that has carried out many murders and other crimes here in the United States. And he's also a known wife beater. And I think, the Democrats, I can't explain why they have gotten behind this cause, flying down to El Salvador to meet with this guy as if he were some kind of a hero. And to try to run interference for them, the press basically is trying to cover up the facts that we actually know about this guy. And if people know the facts, they're going to say, thank goodness he's in El Salvador and not in America.
Well, if they want him back in America, I'm sure all of these people would be happy to keep him in their own homes. John Hinderaker, thank you so much for your time.